Hello, and welcome to the Readings from the Room series. I'm just going to give about a minute for people to file in. But if you haven't been here before, my name is Lily. I'm the host of the Readings from the Room, sponsored by the Writers' Room of Boston. I'm an essayist based in Boston and a member of the Writers' Room, and I'm delighted that you can join us this evening. I'm just going to give a quick overview of the Writers' Room of Boston before we get started. For anyone new to us, the Writers' Room of Boston is a co-working space in downtown Boston for writers who want a quiet place to work. The room is open 24 hours a day and provides desks as well as the companionship of other writers. We regularly host virtual and in-person events like this one, as well as feedback and writing groups. Some are open to the public, like this one, and some are members only. We have been serving writers of the greater Boston area since 1993, and no serious writer is ever turned away because of an inability to pay dues. If you'd like to learn more, please check out our website, which I will be posting in the chat for our full schedule of events, as well as more information about membership. This series is made possible by grants from the Mass Cultural Council and the Boston Cultural Council, and we also rely on friends. If you enjoy this program, please consider making a contribution using the donate button on our website. Tonight we'll be hearing readings from Aishvarya Arora, a poet and cultural organizer based in Ithaca, New York, and Melinda Fakuade, a poet and editor based in Brooklyn. As we go along this evening, feel free to use the question and answer feature in the box at the bottom of the screen where you can type in your questions. If you're having trouble finding it, you can also post your questions in the chat. I'll be monitoring it and we will save some time for discussion at the end. So without further ado, I'm posting the link to the writer's room in the chat, and we're ready to get started. So our first writer is Aishvarya Arora. Aishvarya Arora is a poet, teaching artist, and cultural organizer from Queens, New York. They're the author of Mr. Time by Goldline Press in 2026. Their writing has appeared in Poetry Magazine, The Kenyon Review, Gulf Coast, Poetry Northwest, and Fog Lifter, among other publications. I actually came by their writing in a recent issue of the Kenyon Review, which you should definitely check out. Currently, they live in Ithaca, New York, where they are a lecturer in creative writing at Cornell University, and they create poetry ephemera through their micropress, Lavender Codex. So, everyone give a warm welcome to Aishwarya Arora.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining today. I'm so grateful to be a part of this reading. I'm usually based in upstate New York, but I actually am calling in from Boston today. So I'm visiting here. And so, yeah, really nice to share virtual space. And yeah, just to start out, I'm gonna just share a poem, the title poem of my chapbook. And in the interest of access, I'm just gonna put a link in the chat for the text of the poem if you wanna um, see it while you also listen to it. Mr. Time fucks with my notions of memory, cranks the key in the back of girlhood like a wind-up toy till it tenses, stumbles at me. Selfish Mr. Time drives by in girlhood. Borrowed car, speeding red streak. I hide at the side of the highway, where peonies, poppies, straw flowers mumble at me about the difference between blooms and openings, sleep and dreams, tits and breasts. Now, on me, they're a chest, spread flat, taught to do that. Like the bedsheet case soothed with the flat of their hand, palmed and smacked, till it shivered like that, till the springs inside creaked. How pedestrians cluck at the sidewalk florist for a more reasonable rate on Woodside Ave. How, when I met Kay, I spoke from inside my binder flattened chest. A dream I achieved where never was ambition attached. Luck and discovery, invention and inheritance. Like my father, after every meal I take dessert. Like my brother, I take clippers at a one from my nape to my temples. Like my grandfather, I divulge only when asked. Ask again. Ask me if I always knew. Patriarch of my backpack, I pack it full of hungers. Spearmint to gnaw. A forged note that says I'm the washed sidewalk's favorite boy. Wet from the florist's hose and spray. I remember. I change. I do across my memories, cooling daylight. I waft across your imagination like grass after the mower's engine cuts. What else could grow and die here? Um, I like also to start with Mr. Time because I feel like it encapsulates a lot of the themes that I'm weaving together in the collection. I like to write about grief and I like to write about gender. I like to write about embodiment. And the series, the poem that Lily encountered in the Kenyon Review is a part of a series called Stone Butch Sonnets. So, writing in the lineage of the writer Leslie Feinberg, um, trans activist, trans elder, trans ancestor from upstate New York, and the poet Wanda Coleman, who wrote these incredible poems called American Sonnets, which, she's the one who inspired Terrence Hayes. I think his American Sonnets have really are such an homage to her work. So I'll just read one Stone Butch sonnet, and this one was recently in Foglifter, and for access, I'm just putting the link in the chat. Stone Butch Sonnet. Flicked from your clipper's silver fingers, my hair confetti dusts your skin, settles under your corduroy collar. The way mustard flowers fizz open on fields of late season mustard plants. I'm born, bristling and petaled at your hands. You in that burgundy chore coat in a decade could be me. Your right hand, my munjal, your left hand, my prithvi. And I think for me, in my work, where these like really capacious themes of grief and gender sort of commingle, um, or maybe what I'm most interested in about both of those topics or life experiences is they're a way of writing about just coming into being, just coming into oneself through these sort of fundamental experiences that shape us. And so, some of the way I like to think about that is through the pronoun we. So the we that is made in grief. So the next poem that I'm going to read is written from that perspective. And as you listen, I invite you to think about the we's that you're connected to through grief, and maybe the beloveds that you've lost and that you carry with you. Model of a mirror. We don't discuss how our dead suffered. We observe roadside vultures scraping bones on the hit badger. We don't discuss luck. Green parrot acquired by the dead, with 3 months left of living, survived by bird, seeking absence's meaning over crests of living room carpet. We won't say how our dead died. Anniversaries we huddle, shivering in waterfall mist. Herons in pairs punctuate quieting rapids. Our dead returned to living. We won't suffer superstition. Hit on the wrist with pigeon shit, white smear. Gods ceiling, dead laughing. We peel feeling from skin like a wet one piece. Spandex noisy, doves keening, gray puffs who mourn no one. We laugh when noon shadows father darkness that strikes. We laugh when noon shadows father darkness on the sidewalk below the sugarberry. We won't call darkness that strikes during daylight grief. In lamplight, we flap wings on the ceiling. In our sleep, scenes of our dead swapped with our living. We won't admit qualities drool from them into us. Their faith in supplements. Night errands to the red pharmacy. When living, digging their heels in about healing, about treatment. They ride beside me. Grief is a bird steering. Um, I also sort of have an interest in the way that the language of grief circulates. And a phrase I became really interested in was sort of sorry for your loss. And it's a phrase so many of us use. I think it can have so much good intention when we encounter those moments where language fails us. So this is a poem a little bit meditating on the challenges of that phrase, but also I think what can be silly about it, and thinking about some reversals around that language. So this is another poem from the last link that I just sent in case folks want to read along. After friends brought potted coral peonies and purple rhododendrons to my stoop and drove away. Blooms cluttered the front sill in the dark room I occupied for days. My loss was barely sorry. To each flower rested at its prime in my name. My loss shrugged when I gave up and gifted the inside to the outside. Delivered my bed to the sidewalk, my dresser to the park's gazebo. The lake lost its job to my mirror, which shivered on its shores like an upright veil to the other side. Birds vacated the shoulders of branches to nest in discarded drawers. What about the living and the dead? Will they be reversed too? Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for reading those poems. We actually got a comment during your reading of your first poem, which I just wanted to read out loud because I agree with, which Matt in the chat said, I like the florist part. It helps me imagine my time watering plants, which I agree with. I think you had a line. Um, I'm the wash sidewalk's favorite boy, wet from the florist hose and spray. And I thought that was absolutely gorgeous. So thank you so much. Our next reader is Melinda Fakuade. I must confess, Melinda is one of my favorite writers. She's also one of my best friends. She's a writer and editor from Long Island, New York. Her work has been published in T Magazine, Vox, Slate, The Cut, Rolling Stone, and elsewhere, and she currently lives in Brooklyn with her fiance. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome Melinda. Oh, you're on mute, Melinda.
Oh my God. Okay. Hi. I'm so happy to be here. I'm also happy to be off mute. Thank you for having me, Lily. And Aishvarya, those poems were amazing. So I'm really happy to be in such like great poet company tonight. Um, I have a few poems for tonight, some of them old, some of them new. And I'm very excited. So this first one is called Wind Portrait. Ribbon like a fish out of water, gliding on the breeze, with uncertain surrender. Let suffering be a dance and not a fate that can be cut with shears. May nothing be permanent. Solar dust carries us all. Wind is merely a place setting, or a photograph, the way a station is like a clock. Fly, swim, cut through, and then suddenly start to breathe. And then this next one is called The Briefcase. A red-pink fireball of a man bounding down Front Street into the cool summer dusk, each step a smattering of lightning carrying us away. I see it now, how the blinding white and purple heat of panic must have blurred his vision. Were we scattered to the wind as soon as we were found? Or was it a slower death? Was our image torn to shreds, shattered like the trunk window, and reduced to something unrecognizable, relegated to the wastebasket or the trance of the shredder? Did our eyes look like saucers the whole way through? Was our discovery amusing or haunting, the proof of our existence stuck to the back of his eyelids at night? Or likely, I bet, somehow it was nothing at all, that a stranger had managed to crack a case like my father's in one fell swoop. This next one is called On 26. Everything happened right on time. The fireworks, the kiss, all of the dominoes fell despite the leftover waves of sadness rocking underneath. No mind to the wind in my eyes. I began to dream again, first of cherry pits that I did not swallow, then of waking in a perfectly lit room. I remember when I turned 23 and that firefly died in my hand, I thought it was the end. The balloon in the sky, the odd coloring of the trees. Mostly I was wrong. I can admit this now that everything has been made right. But wasn't I onto something? When I cut fruit and the knife landed in my palm, when the sound that came out sounded like someone I never met, I knew right then that that part was over. Finely wound strings were severed. The hammers had nowhere to fall. It was all for something, though. The matted roots I let grow out, the broken, flimsy nails. When the sun gets too hot, my kind of basking goes a short distance. The soft remove of my mind allows me to survey the pile up from a very high hill, and it is so beautiful I couldn't possibly ask for anything else, but I will anyway. More upside down cake and more gold coins in the pull of my t shirt, photos where I bloom in the swell of my own star, a longer veil and bigger instincts and sweaty embraces and the clarity to say I mean it. Less of that, more of this. More, more, more. This one is called Dreaming of Fish. My old teeth are attached to my new teeth, and someone is wearing my clothes. This is how I become a cliche, wandering the aisles looking for turnbacks folded between what I've left behind. These days, I keep convincing myself that I am pregnant. My lower stomach sticks out, rumination comes easily to me, a twitch there. A barren feeling comes across me when I look in the mirror too quickly or take too long to open my eyes. Paul says that when I'm menstruating, I always want fish. I am surprised to learn something new about myself from him. There is a German shepherd that watches over me as I sleep. I fade into the yellow blue gray of morning, swim up to the surface and come home to myself and go back out again. When they come to break the house into pieces, we let them do it. I am barefoot, I cannot come home, I am searching for a place to go. The trees part like hair swept out of eyes. Maybe I am terrified of all the space I have to fill, the radiostatic French of what I hear and see and do not know. I go into my closet and strike dollar bills from my clothes, like lighting a match, like ripping out a page. And this last poem is called Conjoinment. In a moment of true exasperation, my mother knocked our heads together. It was an accident, but she didn't mind. Looking back, I think she was on the verge of tears. The second or third time after that, I think we choreographed it ourselves. We had bounced out of her grasp, cascading through the aisles as if we were Cole himself. We were really good, Amanda and I. Everyone said so. So now, just to try it out, we were staging a cosmic event. I was in one direction, my sister in another, and my mother pulled us toward herself. We became pebbles in a slingshot. It didn't really matter the force of the collision, though, because it was ancient, like a broken gong, an artifact ringing out in laughter, joining together again. A comet, here, gone, so surprising it maybe didn't even happen. When I think of it, the whole thing feels etched into my skull. Us giddy with shock, moving specifically to meet again. How we crossed the veil, forgot here and now, and returned for a second from whence we came. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melinda. Those poems were great. So just a reminder, if anyone has any questions, feel free to post them either in the regular chat or in the Q&A. To start us off, I do have a couple of questions. My first one is for Aishvarya. I was hoping that you could speak to your relationship with the titles of your work. I enjoy how when you title your work, it feels like a very active part of the work, almost like a first line. So I was hoping you could talk through that a little bit.
Oh, thanks so much for that question. Yeah, I really enjoy poems where the title is almost like a key to the poem or sort of a match. Like I sort of like playing with the conceit of the title as an entry to the poem. And almost I like it if the jump of sort of the jump scare of a bridge title where it's also the first line. So I think with a few of the poems that I actually read, with After Friends Brought, and with Mr. Time, the title is usually a part of the first line. And yeah, I think it just adds sort of an energy or sort of an immediacy. With the other poems, I think with Model of a Mirror, the title sort of still mystifies me actually. So I definitely have a few titles where they feel like more of a mm, more something mysterious that I hope the poem builds to. Yeah, that's a great question. I love titles. I think that's like the funnest part of working with a poem. And when I'm working with students, I often uh, like to sort of strategize about how the title, just changing the title can sort of change the whole poem, and I find that to be so interesting.
Do you find yourself workshopping your titles or do you think of the title first? What happens most often in your process?
A really good question. I usually feel like um, hmm, for some of my poems, the title comes first because I write in a lot of series. So Stone Butch Sonnet, like every Stone Butch Sonnet has the same title. But there's also other series in my chapbook. So I think the titles often come first. Yeah. And it becomes a little bit of an anchor or something to work towards.
And Melinda, out of curiosity, same question to you. Do you feel like you work from a title or does the title come after the work?
I think I typically work from a title. I do like when it, plays with the poem, and a lot of the time I'll come up with the title before I come up with the rest of the poem or know where it's going. And I typically use it as a jumping off point, or if I don't have a title by the end of the time that I'm finished writing, I try to think of like sometimes I try to focus on whatever like the sharpest imagery was to me or like what gets to the core of the feeling, if that makes sense. But usually I do it in the very beginning as a jumping off point.
And then, kind of specific to your work, Melinda, I like how you tend to use, like, you invoke names of people in your life, in your work. It feels like it creates an intimacy with the reader really quickly, with them kind of coming into this world of characters. Can you talk about when and why you decide to name someone directly?
That's a good question. I think it's twofold. Like sometimes I f- I choose to name someone because it's just easier than explaining who they are. But I do also like that when I name someone, it gives the subject surrounding the person weight, and I like that it adds intrigue and mystery. Or like if someone is has someone in their life with that name. Like I like that it could be fluid for whoever's reading it, but it also holds special weight to me. So I hope that that translates to other people. But yeah, I think it's a lot easier than explaining who the person is. But I do feel like naming someone instead of giving them a title or something representative gives them more weight in the poem itself.
I like that answer because it's like a good reminder that poetry is so like personal and like playful. Like obviously like a lot of poets want their work read and like part of it is to create this like universal feeling or experience, but sometimes it is like yeah, it's easier than explaining it and it means what it means to me and maybe it means what it means to someone else. So I like that answer. And then my last question kind of applies to you both. Aishwarya, when you're reading one of your poems, you talked about using we. I noticed you both kind of use that first person plural in your poems. Melinda used a lot of us, and you used we. So I was hoping that each of you could speak to how you use perspective in your poems a little bit more, starting with Aishwarya.
Um, I want to say, Melinda, I really liked what you said about names being specific and like having meaning to the poet, but if someone else encounters the name, it could be a name of someone they know. Like I love that multiplicity. Um, in regards to the perspective offered by pronouns, hmm. In addition to writing in the first person plural, I really like address. So I really like poems spoken towards a you. Um, and that wasn't an intentional posture, but I did find that um yeah, my poems um serve a purpose of some type of dialogue, I guess. Going back to maybe what you were saying, Lily, about poems being universal, but also like they do something for the poet and for the writer. And in some ways, a reader witnessing that is actually really valuable. Um, so I guess I like to use the you because my poems let me dialogue with people who I can't dialogue with sort of anymore in my day-to-day life. And I think with the we, I mean, I feel so shaped by the work of poets that encourage us to think relationally, I guess. And all of the troubles that come with we, right? Because there's a way in which the reader is invited in potentially, but then there's also the use of the we that reminds you you're outside of that intimacy. And I don't know, I like sort of playing with all the ways the reader can be invited in or not. There's this poem by Vivi Francis called The Shared World. And it's a poem that uses the you, but we sort of get to eavesdrop on that intimacy. So I don't know, I like how it makes different intimacies with the readers, I'll say. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And Melinda, same question to you about your poem with the use of the word us.
Yeah, I think we have that in common. I feel the same way. It creates intimacy with the reader, and like it feels like more of a dialogue. And I think similar to the point about naming or choosing not to name people in a poem, it just provides a way to play with perspective and play with what the poem might mean to a reader versus to me. And I think it's just a way for personality and intimacy to come through. Um, I do like sometimes it feels like using we or us can like complicate a poem sometimes for the worse. So I try to be judicious about when I use it, but I do use it a lot. So I think it's something I just personally enjoy. But yeah, I think I agree. It's definitely a matter of intimacy.
Yeah, I mean, those are often my favorite poems to read. When I feel like I'm experiencing something with the writer, that's when poetry is super powerful to me. And I love finding connecting threads between writers whose work might seem like kind of different in the moment, but then you can weave all of these devices and feelings together. So I appreciate you both speaking to that question. Um, so that's basically all we have time for tonight. I want to thank you both so much for those wonderful readings, and I want to thank everyone who joined us. Again, we have a full schedule of our upcoming events on the website. To learn more, you can head to writersroomofboston.org, which I'm sharing in the chat once more. Um, a recording of this reading will also be available on our website if you'd like to watch it back or share anyone. So I wanted to wish you good night and to thank our readers one more time.
Thank you for having us. This was so fun, and thank
Thanks
you
so
for
much.
watching.
All right, have a
Good
good
night,
night.
everyone.